being Afro-Latina, be like, I'm cracking up. ¿Tú hablas español? AKA, you speak Spanish? How? The same way you do. I speak Spanish the same way. The same reason you speak Spanish.
You know what I find so funny is that everybody be so surprised when I talk Spanish. Nobody thinks I'm Spanish. Nobody. So, cuando yo comienzo a hablar, ellos dicen, oh, tú hablas español, pero claro, mi amor, yo soy dominicana, ¿tú crees? But no, seriously, like, I just find it so funny, and especially when I was 16, I used to work at McDonald's, and so many people used to hit on me in Spanish, and they would say certain things, and I would be like, oh, gracias, and they'll be like, oh, hablas español, and their eyes would get better, I'm like, sí, and they're like, oh, no sabía.
I'm a black girl who speaks Spanish. Of course, I've heard people talk about me, but I'm sitting right there. I'm a black girl who speaks Spanish. Of course, I'm listening to your conversation, and I might accidentally start laughing when y'all say a joke, and then everybody's gonna stare at me. I'm a black girl who speaks Spanish. Of course, Hispanic people are gonna say, ¿de dónde eres? I'm a black girl who speaks Spanish. Of course, y'all are gonna assume I'm Dominican. No, just a black girl. I'm a black girl who speaks Spanish. Of course, I've been called morenita, chocolate, todo eso. I'm a black girl who speaks Spanish. Of course, I shock everybody in the room when they hear me speak it. I'm a black girl who speaks Spanish. Of course, I have a ball in all the Spanish-speaking countries. I love them.
This is just a reminder that if you are Spanish speaking, to be very cautious about talking behind other people's backs. Because a lot of people speak Spanish even though they don't look like it. As a black dude in Queens, the amount of comments I have heard behind my back when people are talking about me are numerous. This morning, I was at the gym and I was waiting to use a piece of equipment because a dude was using it. And he finally gets off, and then two dudes try to jump in and use it. So I let them know, hey, I was in line to use this. One of the dudes calls me a mentiroso to his friend and just starts going in on me. In Spanish, of course. So I'm thinking to myself, do I keep it professional or do I act shady? And I choose right in the middle. I'm like, cabrones, solo necesito 5 minutos. Okay? They look at me like, you speak a Spanish? Sí. Be aware of that, because I have heard so many comments, especially in Jackson Heights. I don't know what it is with Jackson Heights, but it is particularly an issue there.
Yo, this is to all my Hispanic people. If you come to me speaking to me in that broken ass English and I start speaking to you in Spanish, speak to me back in Spanish. I don't understand that broken ass English. I'm clearly speaking Spanish to you. Speak Spanish back. You over here speaking Spanglish to me and just throwing off sentences and shit. I don't understand you. Speak to me in Spanish. Don't speak to me in that broken ass English. I don't understand what the fuck you talking about. And y'all probably thinking, oh, I'm speaking to them in broken Spanish. No, while my Spanish is not the best, it's definitely understandable, bitch. Porque si yo te estoy hablando en español, obviamente es para que tú me hables en español. No, pero tú quieres seguir hablándome en inglés cuando yo no te entiendo. So,
you know, Google is free. A lot of people, when they find out that I'm Spanish, they don't realize exactly how densely rooted blackness is in Spanish. They think of like George Lopez looking people. That is Latino. Spanish is different. Now, there is a minority of black actual Spanish people, but it does not mean that it is impossible, and it does not mean that it does not exist. Now, obviously people are going to talk about the black conquistadors, but go even before that. Go even before the Moors, where there was mostly Arab and Amazigh and Berber, but minority sub-Saharan. Like, how do you know I'm not mixed with all of that? I have my DNA test results. But yeah, if you go even further before that, 200 BC, there were North Africans and blacks that were in the Roman Empire, and modern day España,
La verdad que
Spain.
yo me quedo en shock cuando conozco a una persona latina en Estados Unidos y quedan todos de que, oh my God, how do you learn to speak Spanish? Y yo como que, ok. Y como yo crecí en Latinoamérica, pues yo no pasaba por esas cosas solo al mudarme aquí. Quedo bien confundida que no saben lo diverse que es Latinoamérica. No sé, solo me quedé pensando ahorita y quería compartir.
Okay, so I just went to this Dominican barbershop for the first time. Y'all see it. The cut straight, it's fire. But my main question is this. Why do Hispanic people or Latino people, when they see a black person, they just assume that they learned Spanish somewhere else? Why can't I be Hispanic? I'm not, but why couldn't I be?
So Afro-Latino gets on here and states that he don't know why the other Hispanics, the Latinos, are discriminating against him. Like, hey, we're both Latinos, but they're giving the ideal looking Latino more hours. They're cutting his hours. Let me play it right quick.
And I'm not gonna lie to you, the most prejudice have been the Hispanics, like Afro-Latinos just X'd out as well. Like, that shit is fucking with me really fucking bad. I'm at the site and it's like I have to beg for hours because I don't look like the picture perfect fucking Hispanic.
And I don't think they get it. Because just imagine if white Americans and black Americans, if they put us all in the same community. The only thing we have in common is that we're Americans. One group is marginalized. One group have a history of being discriminated and racially profiled and just locked out of markets just because of a different race, being of a different race. See, the Spaniards messed them up. They're like, hey, we're all one. And the whole thing about being all one, they wanted to breed out the indigenous and black people out of the gene pool. Hey, we can't discriminate against you if you no longer exist. You get it? But if you look at it, they're just excluded. Like, Latinos is one group and they're a completely different group. The Afro-Latinos and indigenous people. They're excluded from that community. I don't think they're processing it. Everything is based on race. You're sharing a community with your oppressors. And if you look at the Latin American countries, the people that's marginalized in all those countries are black and indigenous people. The proof is in the pudding.
Cada vez que yo hago un video así, que yo soy afro-latina, que yo soy puertorriqueña, siempre hay alguna persona que está diciendo, oh, pues habla español, tú no eres puertorriqueña, ¿por qué tú no estás hablando español? Oh, pues yo no sé qué estoy hablando ahora, a lo mejor estoy hablando ruso, ¿verdad?
Been colonized so poorly that we want to identify with being white so much, not all of us, but many of us, that we look down on dark skin.
Tú como negro latino tienes dos problemas. Primero, eres negro, te discriminan por negro. Y segundo, eres latino y te discriminan por latino. Eso es doble minoría.
I remember when I was a kid, I looked at myself in the mirror. Y yo dije, esta nariz, estos labios que tengo yo, I'm ugly. ¿Sabes qué yo era? Porque yo pensaba que yo era feo.
Tuve una compañera de trabajo que me enteré que a mi espalda se expresaba de mí como mona, la mona. ¿Sabes qué es lo más triste? Que ella era una latina.
I know I always stress to my family whenever they say something like, they'll be like, Julissa, tú y eso moreno. And I'm like, we are the morenos. That's us.
Your parents are instilling in you that these European features are the most beautiful thing. The standard of beauty for them is blonde hair and blue eyes.
I think there's some colorism just across the board because we've been taught that lighter skin is beautiful.
Since light skin and fair skin is being portrayed on all platforms like TV and media and all of these things, it lets me know that that's what they perceive as beautiful.
And then you look on TV in the telenovelas, they don't look like me, ever. The only one I can remember is Celia.
Algo que me pasa muy seguido es que las personas dicen, ay, qué bonita eres, para ser una negrita. Entonces, una persona negra no puede ser bonita.
Dark skin is beautiful, and it has melanin in it, and it doesn't age. We hate ourselves so much that we really don't understand how beautiful we are.
Que yo, por mi color, o por lo que tú crees, tú no me vas a parar, que yo voy a triunfar. En lo que yo voy a hacer, yo voy a triunfar.
Hi, it's actually not a compliment to call a person of color exotic. Don't do it. I'm not a pet, I'm not a plant. The first thing you look up when you put exotic, it literally refers to animals or plants. People are not exotic.
It just truly is dehumanizing because it's not only like, oh, exotic as in foreign, just reinforcing that Eurocentric beauty standard. But again, plants and animals are often referred to as being exotic, not people. So to use an adjective that's used to describe plants and animals in reference to a person, that's not a racial microaggression, that's full-on macro. That's that's blatant racism. I understand that maybe like if you've called someone exotic, maybe you think I can't. You're on your own there, bud. You're on your own.
So the Roman Empire collapsed in the 5th century. And this is going to have huge ramifications for what we now call the European continent. Now, Europe wasn't identified, or the term wasn't created until the 14th century. So the European landmass at the time was West Asia and East Asia. So what we now call Europe is West Asia. And so in this time, during the Middle Ages, in the 7th century, the Arabs and the Islamic states are going to conquer the Mediterranean, North Africa, and West Asia. Europe's are going to be fragmented into hundreds of different states, and Christianity is going to act as a unifying agent to bring the many tribes together. So when we're talking about the Middle Ages, we're talking about Europe after the fall of the Roman Empire, right before the Age of Discovery. And during the Middle Ages, which is broken down into 3 distinct time periods that we're talking about, from 500 to 1000, 1000 to 1300, and then the Low Middle Ages ranks Flanders 1323 to 1328, Northern France 1358, and England 1381. 1347, the bubonic plague known as the Black Death reaches Constantinople from Asia and soon decimates 1/3 to 1/2 of the European population. 1438, the Habsburg elects its first ruler of the Holy Roman Empire, which consists of 300 semi-autonomous states in Central Europe. 1450, movable metal type sets off a revolution in printing. 1453, Turks captured the Byzantine capital of Constantinople, leading to the demise of the Byzantine Empire. 1487, Bartholomew Diaz rounds the Cape of Good Hope and the southern tip of Africa and reaches the Indian Ocean. 1492, Christopher Columbus reaches the islands of San Salvador and Hispaniola in the Americas. 1493, Pope Alexander VI declares the non-Christian world to be divided between the Spanish and the Portuguese for exploration and exportation. 1500, only 6% of Europeans live in towns of more than 10,000 people. 1513, with the requirimientos, the Spanish required of peoples they conquer in the Americas to accept both Spanish rule and Christianity. 1516, the first segregated Jewish ghetto is established in Venice. 1536, Portuguese explorer Francisco Pizarro begins conquest of the Inca Empire in Peru. So, at this time period after the fall of Rome, up until the Age of Discovery, 3 main inventions are going to help bring Europeans into dominance. And so, the 3 inventions are, they are going to discover gunpowder from China, which the Chinese used gunpowder in the 11th century to fight off the Mongolians. They're going to discover that, and they're going to use it in the 14th century, the Europeans. They are going to also use the printing press. The printing press is going to help spread literacy in the time where the mass majority of people are illiterate. And it's also going to help them spread their message. The last thing is the compass. So they get the compass from the Islamic invaders. When you look at Spain, where is Gibraltar, and then you look at like Tangier, or basically what I'm trying to tell you is Spain and what they consider to be Africa is separated. Guys, check this. Check the distance. Let's go to AI. Check this. 5 miles. 6 miles. Okay? And they said the total length of Morocco-Spain land border is approximately 11.5 miles. The shortest distance between the land along the Strait of Gibraltar separating mainland Spain from Morocco is approximately 8.9 miles. And this is a maritime border. The Romanist Pontifex is going to be the blueprint for conquest, okay? And so Pope Nicholas V issues the Papal Bull. Now, this is before colonization, but they already had it in mind in 1455. They got here in 1492. So they stated that anyone that they conquered could be reduced their persons to perpetual slavery, okay? And this was the first of the Papal Bulls of discovery orders by the infallible Pope to enslave the non-Christians, okay? Now, a lot of people don't know this, okay? A lot of people don't know this. A lot of people do know this. So when Vicente Guerrero made slavery illegal in Mexico, and therefore Texas, which was a part of Mexico, this brought them into conflict with the United States, because the United States was saying after the Louisiana Purchase in 1804, 20 years later, they at this time period, they were saying that slavery was still legal. Now, 30 years later, the United States would fight a civil war over the issue of slavery, but this was like a precursor to that time period. Now, Mexico was in no way, shape, or form had the power to enforce their laws, because why? Well, they had been internal conflict in their own countries. So Vicente Guerrero is put to death. You have coup after coup after coup of every Mexican president. And so the United States is licking his lips saying, hey, you guys, we can just take this land, because they are after the war with Spain and Mexico becomes Mexico. The problem that Mexico is going to face outside of the bankruptcy that they're experiencing and the political divisions is that it's a vast territory. We're talking about all the way up to Oregon, all the way down to, at this time, El Salvador and Honduras. So Mexico is a lot bigger than the Mexico that we now know as Mexico. We're trying to explain how Mexico got decreased in size to the point that it is now. But they have so many different problems, because within Mexico, you have the Spaniards, you have Peninsulars, you have Macitos, Creoles, Indios, Negroes, and at this time period, all of the white clergy owned everything. They owned all of the land, and the people that don't own it. So under the Don Porfirio's administration, which lasted for 33 years, the Mayans went through about a 50-year war with the whites and the Macitos of Yucatan, because the indigenous people were forced to work the land. They had to produce coffee, rubber, and henequen, also known as agave, for the United States. And their lands were being occupied. And the Yucatan people had always resisted Spanish influence, and they had always resisted even Mexico's influence. So at this time, a reporter wrote that women were required to kneel to be beaten, and even really big men had to be beaten by the captor or by the foreman. Things got so bad for the Mayans of Yucatan during this time period, and they were put in this servitude and having to do all of this backbreaking work. Their women were beaten, the men were beaten, they had to work in these fields, and they had these overseers that would just beat them and mistreat them and even unalive them. So what began to take place was one happening where an entire Mayan village named of Tepic was completely wiped out of men, women, children, and even the elderly. And the whites and the Mestizos murdered all of these people. So the Mayans are going to start a caste war, which lasts for a very long time, where they try to expel all of the whites and all of the Mestizos out of the Yucatan by unaliving them. So, leading up to Texas and the Alamo, Mexico had a major issue. They were bankrupt and running out of money, along with political divisions. So, all of these countries are becoming independent. Honduras, Costa Rica, Guatemala, El Salvador. Okay, Yucatan and Chiapas becomes independent. And so, at this time period, Texas is also threatening to become independent. And the problem that Mexico had was when they finally got the Spaniards off their back, their population had dwindled from 20 million to 6 million. And then in Texas at this time period in the 1820s, no Mexicans wanted to move to Texas because their population was strongest in central Mexico. And then in the region of Texas, you had Apaches, Comanches, Wichitas, Catos, and other Indians that made up that land.